So welcome to the briefing, and we are very sorry you invited Mid-Marsh Hillside Pedestrian Network to speak at 11.
So sorry.
So we've gone over, but we will have them speak. They said they've only just got a short one, and I think it was at one of the councillors' requests that they come and sort of talk about the work that they've been doing in the region.
Great.
So we've got Kathy and Mike. Look it out. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for being patient like us. And thank you for the invite to convey our meaning in the community for those that aren't part of our group, our committee. Mayor and the other elected member are involved as work. There are hands-on people that part of within that. We welcome them. So this is really a chance for everybody that's representing other electorates within Mid-Murray Council and officers that hold important jobs in functioning for the council to hear a little bit about our objectives. So thank you for the invite, and we'll do a split check between the two of us if that's okay.
Thank you.
All right, so obviously a lot of you know Mike and a lot of you know me. I'm Catherine Davies, I'm the secretary of the group. Mike is the chairperson. We're a relatively diminished group, shall I say, these days. We were a much larger group at the time of the flood, but the flood actually cut the wind out of our sails. We had a lot of people at that time go out with either stress or illness. Some people moved away from the area, and we found it difficult to get new volunteers, but we still have a very committed band who are very committed to the prevention of suicide in the area. So what I would first like to emphasise is the fact that our constitution very much highlights everything it is that we do, and our objectives, and we keep coming back to the Constitution as our guiding document. So it basically says that we provide and encourage opportunities for members of the community to participate in a range of social, cultural and educational activities to improve the understanding of suicide in our community as identified in the Association Action Plan. So we do have an action plan that's constantly updated as determined by the committee from time to time, which is constant. We value the creation of an empathic and diverse group that is supportive and respectful in all that we do. So we value all cultural and diverse groups within our community. And we promote and value voluntary participation across the community. So from that perspective, we're a totally voluntary organisation. We rely entirely on voluntary, well, not contributions. We're not funded by any organisation. We have no funding apart from what we can gather ourselves. So if we need money, we go out and find money. So we have no funding from the government, we have no council funding, and we have no permanent staff movements. It's entirely voluntary, and we, from that perspective, it's actually very difficult. So Mike, would you like to
Well, I think Kathy's touched on what we do. That's our aim in this job. And I don't think she's taken up the opportunity to mention that we apply our meanings for the whole of Mid-Murray Council. We're not segregating 2 or 3 communities within the whole council area. We service the whole lot, and including those areas that are segregated and looked after by the outside project.
That's true.
we want to make that point clear because we're running with a handful of people. We're trying to do the best we can with getting people to get over the taboo topic, talking about mental health. Also give them the opportunity to tell us what's wrong with them and how we can help and what sort of things can be done in their community. And I think we're really concerned that scenario out there now, the drought. Don't let the rain fall you out there because there's a green tinge in the paddock.
Well, with some paddocks, there's nothing there at Sedan.
There's no stock in the paddocks. There's no farmer with stock out there. And we're really hoping that it doesn't go pear-shaped like it did 10 years ago.
Up at Sedan, I haven't seen a sheep in a long time.
We've still got some.
You've still got some where I haven't seen sheep in us for a while.
I got involved with this group probably about 10 years ago. That was after 4 suicides in the Sedan, Canberra area. For various reasons, but it was drought driven, economy driven, and people under stress. And we're really concerned that it's going to happen again. And we're not prepared for it, and we're on our own. But I'm working closely with football clubs at that ground level, Manham Football Club and the Canberra Sedan Football Club. Canberra Sedan have got organised already with their officials and players and football family. They're getting the SANFL program out there. Tackle Your Feelings, I think it's called, one of them. They'll be there late July to be running our program. Manham Football Club are already having their committee members approached by parents, coaches, players about having some real serious mental health issues. And there has been a few young players in the last 12 months take their own lives for various reasons. So Manham are doing the right thing. They are on the front foot, and they are going to set something up with the SANFL driven program. So there's 2 sporting groups in 2 locations that are struggling to do that. They're getting in some proper people, and we all know that if you have a footballer from a league team come into a football club, the kids listen to them, the officials that these knows what he's talking about. Parents like me, or grandparents like me, are concerned, but we're not officially relevant, if you like. So there is a reaction out there in the sporting community, but we really need. Catherine will talk about her area living in Sedan, Canberra, about what she's concerned about with what she calls the Murray Flats.
Yeah, although what I'd like to stress is it's actually taken Mike 2 years and other community members 2 years, including council members, 2 years to get the Manham Footy Club on board with some sort of training for their players and members. Now, I'd like to just point out that we also have a presence at community days like Are You OK Day, just backtracking on my notes with the Are You OK Day, and the Manham Show, whether we invite back there as well, I don't know.
It's an issue with the parking.
Yeah. Sometimes Sedan swap meet, just depends how we go with manpower. Manpower's a big issue. And quite often we'll have to piggyback off other organisations. For example, we had a bit of a presence via the Lions Club at the, and Councillor Barber, at the, through a bit of funding that we provided at the truck union show. So we were able to do something by piggybacking off of other organisations and people to create a positive effect in the community, which we're grateful of because sometimes we don't have the arms and legs to do it by ourselves.
And you have the Christmas market here in November to raise money for hay runs as well.
That's right, the hay run. We've been able to help with the hay run, and also when the sheep pellets came to town with a stall, that type of thing with information and for communities. And I might talk about blue trees. We've got a blue tree here in 2 blue trees in Madden.
Yeah, the one council were put to the test, I guess, with public consultation about blue tree in Corfu Crescent. And thankfully it did get promoted and encouraged. All the locals that I canvassed on at the time understood what the meaning was behind it. And thank you to Dave for his proof for sourcing the tree, which was given to the Mid-Murray Council, Mid-Murray College. And the students there were able to hear what I conveyed to them, the intent of it, where it come from, what's for, and the importance of talking, checking on your mate, all that sort of stuff. So they painted the tree, they actually planted the tree, and they had a dedication ceremony there about it, a bit of publicity. That is being offered to Swanreach Area School, and I think it may find itself into the community garden, I'm not sure. But that's a work in progress. And there again, it's where the Our Town group would be normally driving that. I don't think they have been involved with the concept of a blue tree, but I've offered to go and talk to the students there about its meaning and how it come about, things like that.
We would quite like to have blue trees in everyone's communities. So if anyone can see a lovely dead tree on any property or a blue tree in on the council property that perhaps we can get permission to paint. We can only paint them to a certain height unless you can get scaffolding around them. But we'll have more than happy to provide paint and hopefully arms and legs. So keep your eyes open for suitable dead trees and let us know about that. Would you like to talk about Men's Health Week?
Yeah, the National Men's Health Week was the 9th to 15th of June, and to help promote that discussion with guys, I'm heavily involved with the men's shed here at Madam, and I've touched base with the Morgan Men's Shed and Swanreach Men's Shed to also run a program. I've shared with them a PowerPoint presentation that was given to me for men's heart health. So it's a PowerPoint presentation, series of notes, and you actually provoke people into thinking about how well they're not looking after themselves. Reflecting on the stats for the last quite a few years, 2019, I think was the last recorded stats that come with this package. I've given that to Morgan to run, I've given it to Swanreach to run, and I have done it here. And we meet on the 30th of June, didn't quite make the National Men's Health Week period. But we meet on the 30th at Swanreach, and Morgan will come down for that as well.
You're meeting at Swanreach.
At Swanreach.
That's right. And the Suicide Prevention Network is funding the men to make for that very important awareness time together.
The wife of the Swanreach Men's Shed chairman's involved with catering at the bowling club, so they'll be putting on finger food for lunch and morning tea. And we'll make a contribution to the museum, the Motor Museum down the road, and also the I guess it's Pioneer Community Museum. So the fellas there will come from Morgan and Madam to those two venues, if you like, and get a feel of what Swanreach is like. It's all done under the category of promoting men's health.
Just a quick question on that. Like if Councillor Wise and myself wanted to attend that, are we welcome to come along to that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to see you there.
Maybe that girls come
That's a
sometime.
Monday.
Question about whether women are invited.
Yeah. So,
I've been to a men's shed breakfast before. They're great.
And you survive.
look, I'm a crossover between men's sheds and care and connected communities, and I plug both groups evenly. Very much mental health is promoted at the men's shed.
Yeah.
But through the flood recoveries, all those breakfasts were funded by Wellbeing SA.
Yes.
There again, a Mid-Murray Council employee was partly organising all that. I think we acquitted, the Minshed group acquitted all the funding for that expenditure, supported the coffee van and all that sort of thing. A lot of stuff come out of that with people needing support and help.
And to be honest, that came from your very first initiative when I called or when I sent you guys an email on Christmas Eve to say, I think the community of Morven are really struggling, what can you do?
Yeah,
And you guys started those coffee and chats and, you know, from there we saw what a difference in small communities and the government were able to fund. So thank you guys for the work that you do
It
in the
literally
space.
saved lives.
It did save
Yeah,
lives.
It did, it
We
literally
had some
saved at
lovely
least one I know.
feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I am here because of you guys. If I didn't turn up to an Are You OK day, I don't know that I would be here, so.
Yeah.
I owe you my
You're outpost to get.
life.
keep in mind that all that during that flood period and the recovery period, there were people that weren't even wet feet. They didn't have that house got wet that are associated with connections to ferries, connections to the town
Yep.
on the river. That suffered as well because the flow of traffic stopped. And all those activities and businesses didn't get the support they usually have.
Well, for example, the post office and the shop in Sudan were critically affected because of the flow of traffic. And I'll talk about that shortly. Now our podcast. We received a grant some time ago to start a podcast, and we've got some absolutely fantastic episodes to upload as soon as we get there. So that's still a work in progress, but it's something that I am just so committed to because there are such wonderful stories to tell across the Mid-Murray. There is just, I think the Mid-Murray is just full of amazing people with the most amazing stories to tell. And whether they've got a mental health basis, I don't care about that. I just think that, whether we're talking about blue ribbon cooks or we're talking about, Councillor Totchet McPeak and her writing experiences, or we could talk about, share waste, or we could talk about
I'm not a Vietnam vet. I think
No,
I
that's
got one.
John.
Foreign,
That was foreign.
foreign, John.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But we could talk about a whole range of things, and it would be, stupendously exciting with exactly the same. We could have a listen to your neighbour type thing, because there's such huge distances between us all. And from the top of the region to the bottom of the region, you'd never get to know. I could go and live in a community, say at Blackwood, and I'd know 6,000 of my neighbours, whereas I'd never know the whole community here. Never. Well, the mayor might. No one else has ever done it.
With the podcasting, I struck up a conversation with Amali Barker, you know, young
Yes.
girl from Panama,
Yes.
who designed the Indigenous jumpers for the footy game this late.
Yeah.
And she was packing up. She didn't want to go and talk to a room full of footballers wearing their jacket. So my daughter went with her. I struck up a conversation and we're going to talk to her about her Indigenous past.
Yeah.
We're going to podcast with her in a month. So hopefully we'll get her to tell her story. So that's what comes out of.
And she's now working for Reconciliation SA as well, which is really great. From doing that Guernsey, the process of where she's gone with doing Aboriginal stuff, it's incredible. It's got an incredible story. Beautiful girl.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the sort of story that we can get out of people. So that's a work in progress, but we are very committed to it. So telling stories is another way that we can get messages out there. Another thing that we do is mental health first aid. Now, we did start with 2 trainers. I was the second one, but unfortunately I've got a really bad back, so I'm off the table at the moment. I do support Irene Bejaya, our youth mental health first aid trainer, and she's continuing to offer training. Now, quite often what we're finding is that we can't get enough people in the Mid-Murray to offer a 2-day course, and we're having to trot outside, just outside, maybe to Murray Bridge or to Newry, and that works fine because what we're finding is that people are working within the Mid-Murray. Either they're working with people in the Mid-Murray or they're people who go to work at Murray Bridge or that, you know. So, or that.
Probably the distance people like travel to.
Yeah, that's right. So, we'd love to come up to Morgan and do a course.
Yeah.
If
You get a few, absolutely, yep.
So,
So we've got 2 minutes. What's your sell?
Right.
What do you want?
What do you
from
need?
us?
okay, the last thing I want to say, Sedan Canberra, it's like a dead space. It's like there's nothing happening. There's like everything has stopped. There's a whole bunch of little groups that have got little dead tails. And what we'd like to do, what the group would like to do is to run a community consultation to find out what it is that Sedan Canberra would like to come together to do and how we can best serve that part of the community to get that part of the community functioning in some way. Maybe we don't know what they want, but to find out what it is that they want. That's where we're at the moment. I need some grant money. I wasn't able to apply for the council grant because I wasn't eligible for it this time round, but I am looking for some grant funding, probably about $1,000. So that for the initial community consultation.
We think the community needs something like Chewing the Fat. There's a world-renowned session, and Councillor Barber and I spent the night there and had quite a few beers and a chocolate too.
But that's only me.
It breaks down so many barriers, but it can be opened up to go further than that and invite women as well and the families, because the women are the sufferers in silence. And they keep the house going and make the kids get to school and be educated. But it needs family environment. And we haven't got the ability with a handful of people to touch base with the right people to run it.
But perhaps you need to talk to the Sudan Lutheran Church.
Yes.
They're holding a dinner at the old barn and movie dinner on the 27th of June for farming, depressed
Yeah, that's right. I
people.
really know that.
But, they'd have a fair old network that you can tap into.
Yeah, that's right. And the guy that runs the Chewing the Fat, who was often through the Lutheran system. Yeah.
So as far as the Janky still involved? in
No,
that?
he's retired.
No, he's.
He was one of the initial,
Yeah,
because I was one of the initial people when they started it.
that's right.
And,
He became quite unwell.
oh,
So
right.
he's got heart conditions, so he's not able to. I met with the school principal this morning, so I'll be working with the school principal in the initial stages of getting this.
As far as funding, I think it's something that Madam Lyons might definitely be interested in. They're looking for ways to distribute some of their funds.
So I just distributed some of our funds to them, but that was a different story.
Yeah.
There's also currently, I was going to say, a DHS grant going at the moment for wellbeing and supportive connected communities. It feels very much in tie with what you guys are doing now. I think it opens July the 10th.
Yeah, the reason I'm not applying for that for the community consultation is because I would hit that for a bigger amount after a community consultation.
So if we just wrap up,
Yes,
thank you for coming. Sounds like you're looking for extra members. So if
Extra
anyone knows
members is
anyone that would
fantastic.
take, you can put in as little or as much as you like in this group. They're a great group.
In the
Have
10,000.
online meetings.
like
You-
the alternate is if every progress association sent us a member.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
right. You're also looking for people to podcast. So if anyone's got anyone
Yes.
interesting that they think would be great to podcast, let Kathy know. and mental health training, share around that you're there for mental health
Keep
training.
in mind your statement about the new preventive health SA
Yes.
initiative with councils.
Yes,
Prevention of suicides is a preventative exercise.
yes, and I'm sure when that officer comes, they'll be working with your group as well.
So with that, the working group will be having its first meeting at Murray Bridge to start working out what sector, what topic preventive health officers going to work with.
Mhm.
So it may or may not be suicide, and depending on what is, research has been the appropriate sector, because all being so preventive health SA has got a lot of issues. So it might be that it's one area that we collaborate with. But what I was going to say as well is that council, the community development strategy, we will be working with communities over the next few years, and that is our community action planning. Again, we'll involve a fair bit of community consultation, so it would be wise to not double up necessarily on what we do, so it might be where again where we can collaborate on.
I think that'll be a great working exercise. Yeah, collaboration.
Collaboration.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone have any quick questions, or we can probably do them offline if anyone's got any questions for Catherine, send them through.
Always available for phone call.
Wonderful, thank you for your time and sorry for
Thanks.
your running late.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, they got a Facebook page, Caring Connected Communities, yeah. Okay, now we have constraints program, Department of Environment and Water. We've got Michael, Ben and Carla. Thank you very much.
Need to be on lunch.
G'day everyone, my name is Mike Colagrossi. I look after the constraints project in the Department for Environment and Water, which is all about better managing high flows on the river for our environment and communities. Thanks for having us again. I'm here with my team, Ben Shepherd and Carla Bebe. So Ben looks after all of our on-ground works and Carla looks after all of our grants. So last time I was here would have been August last year, so quite a bit's happened since. So I'll give a bit of a refresher on what our project's trying to achieve. I'll give an update on the existing works we've got going with your council area and an update on some new works funding which we've recently secured and the next steps to make it all happen, and happy to take questions throughout. So our project's all about better managing high flows on the river for our environment and community. So when you get a high flow down the river and the flow, maximum flows we're funded to deal with are up to 80,000 megalitres per day at the SA border. So when you get a flow like that, it's really good for the wetlands and floodplains because the birds, fish, frogs, and vegetation all get a drink and you get that environmental health boost that we're all after. But the downside is that low-lying land and infrastructure gets inundated. So things like roads and bridges and boat ramps and jetties and things like that get wet, and we can't use those for to enjoy the river or to work and operate the river. So we've got a program of works where we identify all those low-lying structures that are inundated at those flows, and we've got a construction program that picks them off one by one and looks to upgrade them. Either, we might raise them up or lift them up to make sure that they don't get wet, so you don't get those impacts at all. Or it could be other things like easier for councils such as itself to decommission and recommission them before and after a flood. So a range of options depending on the location of the structure or what its use is. And we've been working with council since 2019 through a partnership approach where we've identified all the structures that are inundated in the Mid-Murray Council area, and we've got a funding program where we're kind of picking them off one by one based on priority and deliverability. And so basically we grant you guys the Commonwealth funding that we receive And you guys then go on and do the design and construction of those assets, being the asset owners yourselves, you know them best. As long as you meet our minimum requirements, flow requirements, that's all we really, that's our interest in it. So we have this partnership approach, which has been working well the last couple of years. And at the start of the year in March, we secured some new Commonwealth funding. So we can now continue, our program was going to end on 30 June in a couple of weeks, but now we've been extended by a couple of years. So we've got some new projects and new funding to announce today, which is great. So today I just wanted to provide an update on the works we've got going with you at the moment, and then prepare for those new works funding. So in terms of the existing works update, we've got 4 projects going on at the moment in your council area. So we've got design and construction at Bow Hill houseboat mooring, and just had an update from the team this morning. Kieran and Alex, as part of Dave's team, and all the development native veg approvals are all done for Bow Hill, and so they're going to look at they've got a construction contractor engaged and looking to get on and do that work in August to be finished by September. So that one's on track. And then we got designs at Swan Reach Boat Ramp, South Pundaroo swim system, and Scotts Creek access road, which are also underway and on track to be completed. So we've got a total grant of around $427,000, and that's currently being extended to 30 September. It was due on 30 June, but with our new funding, we can extend that time frame out because it's just been some slight delays with contractors and things like that. So just giving you guys a couple of extra months to round out that work. And I believe that I think the grant variation was emailed through to Ben Scales last night. So we'll follow that up with him and sign that off. And then so far you've spent around $147,000 to the end of December last year, with around $280,000 remaining. And it looks like, based on the last update from the team, that all of those grant funds are going to be expended. So these are the works we're currently rounding out with you at the moment. And then the new works that we put up. So in August last year, I put up exactly the same list. What we were asking of elected members then was for you to endorse that list so we can put it up to pitch for that Commonwealth funding. And today I'm here to say that we've secured that funding now. So we're seeking council endorsement to accept the funding and the list of projects so we can get on and sign a new grant to undertake those works listed there. So we're looking at $1.875 million of construction funding. So we're looking at taking Swan Reach Boat Ramp and South Pundaroo swims through to construction that we've designed in this early work stage. And then we've got, because we're always thinking about the future in this project, we've got a new tranche of design works to do over the next 18 months. So Arnold Park Bank Stabilisation, Morgan Riverfront Wharf, South Pundaroo Access Road, and Blanchetown Boat Ramp. So we've got, I think, $400,000 or $500,000 there in design work. So the aim is to design all those works up over the next 18 months. And then if we have a future stage, we can then pitch for the construction funding. We kind of leapfrog and go from there. So we're looking at, with the 420 odd thousand, we're looking at close to $3 million investment over the two phases of the project. And then, so the next steps to make it all happen, we've got two project streams really. The first one there in the blue is the existing grant we've got for those 4 sites on the map earlier. They were originally due 30 June, but we're giving you guys an extra 3 months just to round out that design and construction work, given there were slight delays. That grant has been sent to your CEO, and then we'll look at signing that. It's just an extension of time to allow us to complete those works. So that's all on track. And then subject to council endorsing that new works list, we will then go on and negotiate and execute a new grant for the $2.335 million. and look to work with you guys to complete that work by 31st December 2026, which is when all of our work has to be completed by. And then, so, you know, in a perfect world, we'll have that work constructed and we'll have a whole new package of works that are designed, ready to go to construction. There are discussions across the basin governments with New South Wales and Victoria and the Australian government to think about a future for the program across the basin beyond 2026. So we're having those preliminary discussions now. And so should, you know, new projects and new funding streams go beyond then we can put up that next round of design work up for construction as well. And I dare say we'll put up more sites for design for a future construction phase. So we kind of got this leapfrog approach where we design things, we get them ready, we de-risk them, we get all the approvals, we do the community engagement, and then we put them up for construction. So, you know, we've got a long list of sites in this council area because there's a lot of things that get inundated, and we're basically picking them off one by one based on you know, the deliverability within our timeframes, the cost, the community support for them, and the priority. So as long as they meet both your priorities as a council and as well as our flow and environmental priorities, then they're on the list, and we'll keep delivering them as long as the funding's there. And so just in summary, it's all about getting water, connecting it from the main river channel to floodplains and wetlands. It's a key component of South Australia's commitment to the basin plan. So that's why we exist. There's also a dual benefit of providing that community resilience and making sure that communities and businesses can keep still operating and living and working and enjoying the river before, during, and after these high flows. We'll continue to work together for win-win outcomes. We've got a proven track record of working with you guys for the last 5 years. We've built a good rapport and trust with Dave and the team. You know, real transparent. If you've got any problems, come and see us, and we're always willing to help because we're here to support you guys in achieving these outcomes for both of us. And it's a genuine win-win approach because it's 100% capital funded from the Commonwealth Government. We achieve our basin plan outcomes, and you guys also get to flood-proof your assets. And it's really good that we can provide some certainty for the next 2 years in that next pipeline of work. And then, you know, we'll focus on delivering that with you guys, and then demonstrating to the Commonwealth that if there are any future opportunities beyond 2026, then we'll be ready to go with the next package of work. So thank you for all your support, and looking forward to working with you the next couple of years.
Thank you, Michael. What's the total amount of like capital funding that you've got so far?
So around, for this next stage, it's around 45 million capital. Yeah, and that's across all councils, First Nations, and a lot of state government assets as well, big floodplains, river vessel waste disposal stations, things like that.
Is there is it equitable, you know, the way that you're distributing that funding, is that like an equitable piece, or like how do you determine, like we've got more than a third of the river, huge area, but very limited resources to be putting things to you, and I just worry that we get left behind because of our size?
Yeah, the way we've prioritised the works is we've engaged with every council, First Nation, irrigation group, state government agency, and offered the list of sites, worked up the list of sites, and worked with everyone on what's deliverable within those funding timeframes, and put up every site that's got each group support. So yeah, we treat everyone the same, whether or not they end up with exactly the same funding, depends on the local circumstances and what projects are ready to go. I'm looking for opportunities to how to increase the funding, you know, for us, so potentially unsustainable, more projects that we can get done under this means we're not dismantling a 200-year-old wharf and upsetting the community and a Blanchetown boat ramp for people that feel like they get left behind. So we're totally grateful for what you're doing. Thank you so much.
and we'll keep up there with our advocacy for our youth.
So, Michael, through Mayor Bailey, could I just ask a question? Could we have a breakdown of what funding has been allocated to each of those bodies?
Yeah, we can provide that list to you.
Because I note that, Renmark had $4.1 million for, I think, their wharf, was it? Or was it roadworks?
Road.
Yes.
Yeah, so Renmark had in the early work stage around $4 million, and another $4 million is yet to be approved, but is there for stage 2. Now, with that breakdown, for the early works, $2 million was a co-contribution to their wharf, which was a larger piece of construction work that they were doing, but we paid towards the high flow impacts of that. So that was a co-contribution. And the other, just under 2 million was for the Renmark rolling dock. Now that started off as a community asset in our mind. It was we engaged with the Renmark Rowing Club, so that was a community asset, but they weren't able to have the expertise to take that through to construction. So Renmark Council stepped in and took control of that asset. So that kind of started off as a community site, but the funds were assigned to them and they took ownership of that. In the next stage, we've also got a $2 million co-contribution towards 21st Street Bridge, which was another large project that the council will receive other funding for, and then another around $2 million for Lot 5 Marina. So when you take out the co-contributions and the original community site, the kind of amount of investment is quite similar across each of the 5 councils.
So could you just clarify how much did Renmark Paringa put in?
I'm not sure what they've put in, but we've made a co-contribution towards $4 million of that is a co-contribution towards 21st Street Bridge and the Marina. 21st Street Bridge and the wharf.
And another 4 million in round 2.
Yes.
And so to me, we're very thankful for the contribution, but I think what we got $500,000 in round 1 and then a couple of $1 million in round 2 sort of does beg the question around that comparison with other councils.
And distance of river, more than a third of the river in South Australia this year. So I'd like to see a third of the funding.
Yeah, we're happy to work with you guys on. We're
Yeah.
happy to put up any projects that you guys want to put up and try to get that funding. So
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Just great collaboration.
thanks for being with us.
And I've just realised that Dave probably hates June 30 more than Clive. With everything that keeps coming up, Dave has until June 30 to do this. Thank you very much and sorry for holding you up.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us again.
Thank you.
The next item is the forward agenda.
Heritage.
Any comments, questions?
Yeah. Forward agenda.
No. We'll move on to the next agenda.
Sorry, can I be a pain? Can I try and add something to the workshop for us? A briefing? Can I suggest we look at a grants activity report that comes back to council monthly? That gives us a bit of a understanding of what grants are around, what we've applied for, and sort of how much. I've got a bit of a model that I'd like to see, but yeah, I just thought we could workshop that at a briefing if possible.
Yep, Carol will put that on the forward agenda.
Carol's MIA right now, but we'll get that to her. Thank you. Thank you.
Carol not there?
She's coming right now. I'll send it to her. See you.
So we might go back to the start of the agenda, which Simone just mentioned in conversation. Item 1, for those that are not aware, the LGA CEO resigned yesterday. So Simone had some conversations and they made the decision that they were unavailable to come up. So Simone, I'm not sure whether you want to talk about this, or you want to reschedule? Yeah, obviously they were going to present to us as a result of our correspondence to them, but they're not here today, so.
Maybe that's where.
Thoughts of the room?
Reschedule, I think. Or reschedule?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
They
so.
should think the point, but I don't know.
Well, this part of the reason that I wanted the briefing is to go through the letter that we received, because I don't think it answered the questions. Like, we actually asked, what do we lose if we stop membership? And the letter just tells us about the value, not what we lose. Obviously, I'm not that excited about the way they've been working with the sector, and a lot of mayors and elected members are also very concerned. Words that we've been throwing up near a crisis. We have lots of behavioural issues. We have financial sustainability, which is still not really on the agenda with LGA. But we do have a new strategic plan, which is in draft at the moment, and obviously there'll be a new CEO. So whether that now goes in the right way, I have suggested to the president that my feeling was that LGA probably needed a full external review on their efficiency and effectiveness. The act literally says that the purpose of the LGA is just to promote and advance local government. And I don't know about you guys, probably the ones that have only been in for a few years haven't seen how far backwards we've gone, but in my opinion, LGA in general in South Australia has gone backwards, and I don't feel like we're being promoted or advanced, and I feel like we are a great level of government and we're just losing community trust one after the other, and every second day there's something in the advertiser. You know, that Mount Barker one was crazy. They said that Mount Barker was $250 million in debt, and when you read the actual article, 168 million was for swims and 100 million was for wastewater treatment, you know, so 268 of the 250 was for jobs that SA Water would be doing if they were 20 minutes down the road. So I feel like LGA should be promoting and advancing us way more than what they are. And that was the discussion that I wanted to have with the CEO today, which is
So we wait for the new CEO.
possibly, yeah, it could be about 6 months.
But that
Yeah.
said, Simone, obviously the administration report to a board, and so, you know, the board set the direction, and they are the ones that you know, make everyone accountable.
So you're suggesting maybe a letter to the board? To the,
Oh, well, you know, the point being that whether we wait for the new CEO or, you know, we still want the president to come. I would think, given that she is elected to be the president of the LGA board for the sector. Yeah, I suppose the question I pose is, do you need to wait for a new CEO to be in place to raise your questions and concerns, our questions?
yeah.
Well, I think our question is more important than waiting 6 months.
Yeah.
Could maybe have them bring a couple of other board members to hear what it's like that.
Yeah.
So I can remember council going down this path about 3 times. About we should be a member or we shouldn't. Was always blocked pretty well by who the president was at the time. Never sort of advanced.
So then you'll just invite the president back.
Is that what the council was?
Not
At the earliest
from everyone.
convenience.
So I think so. What I'm hearing is the action is that we reschedule the presentation and we don't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is Riverbank slumping.
Okay, just a bit of a presentation on riverbank slumping, and I suppose it was through the drought affected riverbanks. In our area, we've got East Front Road and Pollute. Noting that it was right across the whole region, there is areas in Murray Bridge that are also affected by riverbank slumping. So moving on, very brief overview. It was caused the road when the road was closed for East Front Road in this case. The road was closed until remediation could occur. The road was closed in 2010 and is still currently closed except for specific access only. So it's emergency services and localised residents. The slumping is at the edge of the floodplain where the fill was applied in probably 1970s, 1980s to raise the level of the road, and that would have been unengineered when it was put in. What's obviously happened is through the tension of the water being up against the riverbank, with the drought, there's no water, no strength against the bank. There's been tension cracks in the earthworks due to the low river levels. The road was closed by SAPOL at the time due to emergency, and then formalised by the council in April 2010, and it still remains. An outset from that was council sealed Bakers Hut Road in 2010 to provide the detour route. There's 4 affected direct residents, 3 parcels of Crown land, and at the time, the average capital value of the land was about $160,000 for the 4 residential properties. That was at that time. GEO have assisted through that process in investigative reports, surveys, and geotech surveys. And what we did back in 2019 was we actually facilitated a resurvey of specific points where the slumping had occurred to monitor what the movements are, and that'll come up a little bit later in the report. The effects of East Front Road itself, you can see where on the picture on the left-hand side where the road is slumped and cracked. Similarly, on the top right-hand corner, the crack around the yellow paint, and then there's a patching that's gone along the outside, the middle of the road in the middle of the picture, obviously to stop water ingress and the further deterioration of the road and provide trafficability to that area. This is East Front Road as it sits, and those properties have been highlighted through that area. For a highlight with the thing. There's the road closures around about there. There's a red dot, and there's another red dot up there. So the road's closed there. There's Bakers Hut Road, so that's the detour coming around. So basically, there's a gateway there where people go in and out for the local access only, and emergency service should they be required. Otherwise, the road's closed to public access. To give you an idea, that's the survey. There's a heap of points right through that area. I think it's about, from memory, it's probably about 74 points, which get constantly surveyed or have been surveyed previously. We did it in 2019. And they're the areas that we've been undertaking. The last survey we did is that property there. They complained that the house may be moving as well. So there's some points in around that house. So we've been surveying that point as well. To give you an idea, the survey results, this is only a snapshot. There's about, that's 13 lines of 74, I think it is, 74 reference points. So back in 2011, they were the points, obviously the locations, and then what the levels were doing. And then the current survey at a later date provided those. And then there's the movement, whether it's been up or down or crossways. If you look at that, I've only highlighted where you can sort of see a couple of points there. Where it's moved, say 3 millimeters up, 3 millimeters down, or 4 millimeters to the side. But there are reference points within those areas that have moved up to 20 mil. So there is a significant amount of movement in the road itself, road and the formation itself. Moving along, obviously we've got the same thing at Clute. Same thing happened. Tension cracks open up to about 5 centimeters in width and about 1 meter deep. In 3 areas, including the upstream and downstream of the boat ramp and the boat ramp parking areas. Tension cracks formed by the limestone cliffs behind the properties, with the threat to failure, potentially creating issues where large blocks could land on the houses below. The cracks have also been formed under the verandas of the shacks, so it's very close to the river's edge. And there's a road out the front of those shacks that's actually been closed up, basically the same as East Front Road has. Similarly, there's 6 affected properties, 2 parcels of Crown. The average capital value was 239 at the time. And the reason we put that in, obviously, if you ever want to do a cost benefit analysis, say, well, is it worthwhile investing? You find out what the cost benefit analysis would be. So to highlight that, it's very difficult to see here, but in the crack, you got a lot of cracking and segregation of the pavers in those areas. And this one's a little bit difficult to see, but that's the road that's actually been closed because there's cracking in the formation adjoining the riverbank. So that's actually at Clute as well. Looking at that, you've got the Clute, that's where the roadway is through there in front of those shacks. There's obviously movement in and around those areas, which is probably just more riverbank and not property related issues. But there has been evidence of those areas that there is risk at that time. So to give you a bit of a summary, it's not only an issue for Mid-Murray. Like I said, rural city of Murray Bridge also has similar issues. I think they've got an area, and I'm not sure where it is, but obviously by the river. They don't do bin collections, they don't do rates on an area of properties, but people are still living there. There's actually areas there where there is cracking. East Front Road at the time, I think SKM was the consultants through June. They gave us a bit of an idea that it's probably going to be $160,000 to $190,000 just to do a geotechnical survey of that whole area, with a potential $2.2 million at that time to reconstruct that area across East Front Road. The LGA and Dew did commence discussions on Riverbank slumping as a whole of government issue across the river system probably 4 to 5 years ago. That has stalled. So I don't really know where that's got. I mean, that's due. I can actually ask Mike Coligossi following this, so the guy that was just here, as to where that is. There is still survey pins in all those areas, and we're about to do another survey. We've just done an order to raise another scheduled survey of East Front Road. That's going to cost us $5,000 to do that. And then obviously you've got to look at the cost effectiveness to rebuild the road. I suppose when you look at that, I'm just trying to cover other projects in there which we have issues with and they're unfunded. One being East Front Road, obviously one being Clute. And then I've got Law Road, looking at stormwater projects. There's all these other projects that make priorities, but we still need to work through those processes.
So is that road being used, like what I'm being told is that road's still having trucks and things on it from that landowner? Is it? And is that safe?
I can't substantiate whether it is or not. My belief is that he's meant to be parking on the allotment next door. Whether he's bringing items of plant into that area or not, I don't know. Looking at Google Earth the other day to compare this, there are jetties and wharfs that have been built. Now, I take it that's been done from the river and not from the river bank. So unless I actually catch someone there or find evidence that there's actually been heavy vehicle movements on that area, I probably can't act on it.
And the dots that you had on the house, is the council paying for that?
No, that's actually the property owner. So what they did was they actually asked us if we could just monitor those while the surveyor was there.
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm hearing from members of the community in that area that there is large equipment being driven on that section of road. They can't understand why that's being allowed if the road's closed.
I can provide a report to council, given the road's closed, and there is actually a section of the Road Traffic Act which can actually place traffic management plans on roads. So I could actually put a load limit on that area. So that may be the best way to go.
I think to cover our risk. We haven't done something like that and a truck going in or something.
Yeah. What I might do is look at what, say, CFS trucks are and use that as the limitation. And then say, okay, well, if there is specific access, it will be load limited under the Road Traffic Act. So I can provide a report and work through that. Any other questions? That's me done. Thank you.
Oh, I just have one question, sorry.
No.
So but your long-term plan for these roads is just to like, obviously, remain closed until such a time that maybe Dew or someone else then look into funding, because obviously we can't afford to fund re-bitumising these at all.
I suppose the objective was when it got raised with Mid-Murray and Murray Bridge, it wasn't really a council issue, it was a river stream issue. So the LGA took it on board to talk with Judy, I believe, Ben actually went to a meeting. And they started talking about the roles and responsibilities at that. But then I think everything just faded away because we had obviously the floods and everything else come through. So I don't know whether anything has progressed through Jew or not. But I suppose local government was trying to put it back onto a state government matter to say, well, what are you going to do about it?
And look, I can provide a comment on that. So it got stalled by the floods. So we were having some traction working with the LGA. The issue is that the risk and the owner of that risk in an emergency is SAPOL, but then there's no emergency declared now. And so it's whose actual responsibility it is, and it's cross government organisations. So there's some due issues. There's some DIT issues, there's some planning issues, there's local government issues, and it's about finding who's actually going to take responsibility and lead that across all of those government agencies. So Rural City Murray Bridge and ourselves, and to a lesser extent Coorong, because they had some issues as well. We're working with the LJ on that. And that's just something that we need to revisit to progress those conversations to see what the long-term solution is to an issue that, there's not enough money to fix this issue because it's a natural issue and it's going to occur and has occurred in the past and will occur again. And it would be hundreds of millions of dollars to do this up and down the river. So it's about trying to come up with solutions that is
Alternatives.
Yeah,
That
correct.
road, which we've done with a detoured road.
Is it possible to sell that section of road to the landowner?
I'd probably say that they would be then wanting to take, required to take on the risk, and I don't think they'd actually take it on because of the risk.
That's just before.
That would be just a summation of it.
He's in there with his own trucks.
Yeah, and he's a farm, obviously.
No.
No.
But the thing is, as an action, that we need to revisit those conversations with the LGA and the state government on this issue.
Yeah. Find some advocacy and do it.
I've heard rumours that that person's going to be retiring within the next 12 months or so as well. So.
No. Depends on his business too as well.
All right. Next on the agenda is draft equitable access and usage policy for community sport infrastructure. Is Nat there, Gary?
Yes, she is.
It's a chair.
Hello. So basically, as a result of the Play Our Way funding that we've got through the Commonwealth Government, this policy is a requirement of that funding. So we've drafted the policy at the moment to basically cover just the Manamoble complex that the funding is for.
That was gonna be my question.
However, there is a bill that talks about the equitable access coming potentially, obviously being a responsibility of local government within all of their facilities. But it's currently a bill, it's not an act. So we wanted some guidance around if we should, while we're doing this policy, do we cover all of our properties? Or do we just do the Manamoble complex for the time being and then update it later when we need to?
So just to explain to the policy is based on a template that has been provided to us. And it's the Victorian template. And when you do research around this, you can see pretty much most councils have used that template for their policy. Some councils have taken a much leaner approach. But yeah, as Nat has said, the question is then, should we be looking this to apply to all our facilities that council own in terms of recreation and sport initially? And then as a second phase, we may actually consider it applying to all our facilities.
But our requirement for the grant funding, it only needs to refer to the Manamoble complex for the time being. So that's our minimum.
Yep.
And then we could do sporting, then we can do everything.
So would you prefer to wait till the bill goes through and then see what's in there and see how that influences? Or do you want to go ahead and do the whole thing?
Part of me wants to sort of suggest that we should do the leisure centre and the Canberra swimming pool as part of this policy now. There's some logic in doing that. And then we look at other facilities once the legislation goes through. Because the main thing that is going to be the key change, as we acknowledged, is that we consult with the community around these sorts of things, particularly when we do upgrades and improvements. The key element in the policy and what we're assuming is going to be in the bill is you've got to do the gender impact. You know what it's called again?
Gender impact assessment.
Yeah, gender impact assessment. So that's a requirement that we'll be have to do as part of any planned upgrade of a facility. So if, for instance, we were then to say, look to upgrade the leisure centre, we would have to do that impact assessment as part of the process.
How many other sporting, like I'm thinking Palmer Oval, Truro Oval?
And so then it's, is it just sport or is it our council office? Is it all of our buildings? Because when reviewed, not just upfront, but when, if this office was to be reviewed, we would have to ensure that we were following the gender access, as well as disability access, like disability.
This is another level to that.
It's
another level
Yes.
of disability access, if you like.
My thinking is if you add all of them in now, at least Truro and Palmer, and if they're great communities that do things for themselves, have got an open funding because we've already got the policy. But whether it blocks them though, because they have to do other things if they want to change one tiny little thing in their kitchen area or something.
Correct.
And what about the ovals that aren't owned by council?
Then this
We
policy
can't-
wouldn't apply.
No. And it would only be if they were upgrading their own facility anyway.
They would have to have their own policy.
Yeah. And if they get grant funding and they have to apply by the same.
They'll probably steal our template, like how we've got this one from Victoria.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just a bit of guidance. As it sits now, it's only covering the Oval Complex. But it wouldn't be a lot of work to change the policy. It'll be in the future if and when we are reviewing any other facilities that the extra work will come into it. And if it becomes an act, then we will be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So the intention is to bring this policy to the next council meeting to endorse for public consultation. So at this stage, we're just going through that part of the process and to bring it back eventually for council adoption. Question is, do we go out for consultation with just a limited scope, or do we take the opportunity to go out with a broader scope?
What's the workload of the next assessment that you have to do?
It's not massive. So we'll have to do it for the Manham facility.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much just there's examples that you can use. So there's templates already set out. There's action plans as well that come with it. It's not a massive amount of work.
Yeah.
It's just something that we'll have to do when we review other buildings, and we need to have this policy through to for the government funding by August. It's the day after the August council meeting, so we're trying to put everything in line.
It says Manham Oval Complex, but we don't own the football club rooms. We don't own the RSL club rooms. How does that all fit?
I guess we could put wording in there to be council owned facilities at Manham Oval
We need
Complex.
to do that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're setting the football club and RSL
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But we have no control over it.
Yeah, no, good point. Was there anything else in there that anyone else picked up that?
Would it benefit if you did put the Canberra swimming pool in there? Would it benefit if they're searching for grants? Or if council is searching for grants in relation?
Lots of grants for that sort of stuff.
I said my personal view is I think we should include leisure centre and pool because they are facilities that we own and operate.
Yeah,
So to me, it makes sense
yeah,
to include them now.
yeah, but then why wouldn't we include Palmer Oval, which we own, and we just leased out just like the Manum Sport, Melbourne and Truro, and there's probably more, I'm just trying to think of all the
Yeah.
school league.
No, in that case, we'll put the policy up with those council owned and operated facilities into the policy,
Just sporting.
just sporting.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper, we're just doing it because we have to, I think you need a
And
policy to
that's
be meaningful.
partly my
Yeah.
logic as well, so if we're gonna have a policy, we might make it apply for
Yes.
everything we do.
Yeah, and then we get great feedback from the rest of the community, whereas if we try and add it later, you might not get that.
So how far will you go? Like, for instance, Cadell Bowling Club. They got a lease on the land from council.
I think if we don't own the building,
No, it would be,
if we don't own the building,
Right,
I don't
you own
think-
the land.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the building. it's the
yeah, it would be the
facility.
facility being equitable. And again, only when it's been updated with you, would we consider it
Oh, yeah.
we own building.
Yeah, the policy just applies when you actually look into upgrade.
Where do you stop?
Madam Rowing Club.
you might have to look at the Morgan,
Small ball
rifle club.
Yeah, we'll look at our.
Yeah.
separate
All
certificate
of the assets.
And I guess like when it goes out for consultation, we just highlight to them, because obviously if it's gonna make their life harder, they can actually say, well, we don't want to be in there.
Yeah,
And then we can.
that's a good idea.
No, very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving along. What next, Ben?
Thank you, Nat and Gary. So the next item on the agenda is financial support and drought impacted primary producers. So I don't know if Clive, you've got a presentation or we're just going to have a discussion.
No, I've just got some notes that I've made.
So the context to this is we've had a couple of inquiries or requests to consider council rates, whether they be rebates or deferrals or postponement. And we think it's going to become more prevalent. We have a hardship policy, but some of these things are outside of that current process. We did stuff for the flood and we did stuff for COVID. And so we just wanted to have a conversation with council to see whether there was a position or we need to do more work on this to enable us to manage what may become more prevalent in receiving requests. So Clive, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I've gone back and just had a look what we've previously done. So on the 10th of August 2021, with COVID-19, council passed a motion to waive all fines for the September 2021 instalment. And then that instead allowed people to pay that September instalment fortnightly or monthly. We were fairly flexible in that, as long as they made payments by I think it was the 10th of September. Then back on the 20th December 2022, council passed a motion to give flood relief, which basically waived all fines and interest, and this is just throughout the whole district for 3 months, for the months of December 2022 to February 2023, and that was to enable people to get their finances together. A lot of people didn't have places; they were very busy, so basically council took that on board, and then also where there was a primary place of residence of residential properties, council allowed to apply by application a repayment plan for the period up to the 30th of June 2023. So basically, kind of giving them flexible payment arrangements right from December 2022 to June 2023, where all interest and fines will be waived for that total of 7 months. And then also for CMWS, we provided an eligible rebate also for ratepayers, primary place of residence, where their CMWS wasn't operating during that period of time as well. And then with commercial, industrial and prime production properties where the property had been materially inundated by floodwaters. They also could apply, and they actually had like that flexible payment period over seven months again. So I suppose just in, talking about COVID and the flood, council didn't really make too many determinations because it was widespread, and just because someone wasn't inundated by the floodwater, they may have been impacted, as we were heard before, that people couldn't get across the river, probably couldn't get to the work, had additional expenses, etc. So council, the maximum that council did was actually ask people to apply, and was basically a very easy tick in the box and give a short explanation of their situation. Where we have a primary reduction and some type of relief, whether it will be something once again. I suppose in winding up, what we did was we didn't rebate any rates. We actually gave them flexible. We gave them a bit of finance. Bottom line is, we gave them a period of time to get their house into order, and then a repayment plan. Waiving fines up to fines and interest up to 7 months, and then we were even flexible. There were some people that came to us and said, "Oh, look, I need an extra month," and we were flexible in that instance. They were more exceptions, and when they approached us. With this situation of the drought and from production, and in previous reports I've given to council, and the way we actually rolled this out, council doesn't have the information that state government and federal governments have to make a determination. So at the moment, we are seeing some credits come through our rate system, where people from reduction farmers have actually obviously gone to the state government. They've been deemed eligible to get funding, and my understanding is that they bring forward their some accounts that they can't quite meet. So some might be giving their Origin Energy electricity bill and say, "Look, I can't pay that, I've got funds for that," and others may be saying, "Oh, here's my council rates that they're coming due." So what we're seeing is with the council rates, we're seeing amounts of $1,500 and $2,000, those grants coming through, and they're obviously being paid directly from the state government straight to the council. So the funds aren't going to the primary producers directly, but I'm not sure how many are eligible, because as I understand that, they are actually putting forward the accounts that they want paid. So in that instance, it might be electricity bills, it might be something to do with schooling, etc. So if we are to decide on doing something, the criteria would be very, very difficult, or very open, as such as what we've done before. As for COVID, it was everyone. In floods, it was very much first of all people that have been inundated, but basically anyone could apply for it.
So, did we do anything in the previous drought, which was about 7 years, wasn't it? Do we know about that
2010,
part?
when that Riverbank slumping.
Yeah, that,
So,
I don't recall.
we didn't,
No.
I can remember that one, we didn't increase the rates because
That's right.
the 0%
Yeah,
irrigation.
and there was other
allocation.
things out for people who couldn't get water from the river, and the state government waived all fees on letting them dig through the swamp, put water lines actually into the river instead of the wetlands. There was
So that
a lot of
was-
incentives out there.
so it seems the state responsibility back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. The only thing that does concern me is your rates notice might say you're primary production land. That doesn't actually mean that you're producing anything.
Mhm. That's the interesting factor of it, isn't it?
That's-
People that
yeah.
could have prime protection land, but they're not farmers necessarily.
That's right, yeah.
So it should be some kind of criteria that you are actually producing a farm
That's when
thing.
you want to see the ABN number and the big number, like, but
Other
Yeah,
councils.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think Loxton Waikerie, when I was talking to the mayor there, they've got something in their policy that you have to go to real business support or something to
Yeah.
get something signed off from them.
Well, that will be where those grants are coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the $1,500, you know, the emergency bills and whatnot.
And then-
The amount, 1,502,000 was in
Yeah.
from now, so I don't know why, but yeah.
The other thing with that is then you're actually supporting them holistically, not just for their one issue of council rates, they're going to get that support that they need. But we are also working as a group of mayors and with MRLGA in trying to get the government to set up a fund to cover interest and fines, because the concern is, so if we're covering interest, well, then it's the people that have lost their jobs because they don't have work, or the businesses that are no longer looking after farm machinery, they're all paying for the interest and they can't claim it. So, yeah.
And then to take it a step further, you've got impacted small businesses like
Communities,
shops and
yeah.
things.
Not long.
Just keep going.
So I think like we can't rebate because then it's that. I think penalties, obviously that doesn't cost us anything. Interest does. I think we need to just advocate harder and stronger, but make our hardship policy a little bit more open to help people for that meantime. It might be, I mean, because I don't want to put somebody else's burden onto another person. That's the real concern.
Was I right in thinking that I recently saw something about it being put to state parliament about then giving more, declaring a drought and giving more assistance to the economy?
Yeah, so the Liberal Party have put up to have a person, a commissioner type thing. And I think actually that's might be announced in the meantime. Yeah, there's some work going back in. And to his credit, the Premier has been out to Mount Gambier and has put some posts up that he is actually now talking to funders and trying to find the fit. And I do know that a lot of work's been done with the Minister Scriven and the Primary Production Group and LGA, like we're all working together. It's just, how do you find that thing, that magic pill that helps everyone?
Well, I'd like to see Peter Malinowskis go into the districts that really are hard.
Yeah, that's right. No.
Still quite a lot of rainfall.
Well, we can send him a letter, we can invite him again, I invited him a few times.
You want to go via
Because
road
he's
to
not
get some
seeing the
lobster.
real
Yeah.
hardship.
No, you're right.
Too busy organising concerts.
Yeah, you're right.
So I suppose what we're looking for is some guidance and we can bring a report back. So Clive's outlined what we've done in the past for different emergencies. And obviously we're going to get more of these requests. What I'm hearing is we're not in a position to rebate rates in this instance, but maybe providing some support from a timing or deferral rates and fines and interest on that. Clive, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, the LGA approached me back early April, and they asked before the package was released, they bounced, what could work, and my answer back to them was, well, if you could tell us who's eligible, and then if the state government was willing to pay the interest on the money that they haven't paid on the rates, and then the council would just send like a bill and say, look, the council had to borrow X number of dollars because we haven't, because we've asked, so many farmers have asked for deferral, so it might be $1 million of rates hasn't been paid, $1 million for 31 days is, and here's your bill, state government. And then we wouldn't be out of pocket because we would be getting reimbursed the money that we'd actually have to borrow versus actually having received. So because what they pitched to me was, state government will give councils some money, pay off the rates, and then later take that back and pay back the state government. I thought that was all a bit too confusing.
Yeah.
And I can understand in one sense that if we only pay the interest, then our loans could look larger than they really are because we're financing for a period of time. But it was, to me, it would have been a bit of an administrative nightmare to do that. So, to me, as I said before, we haven't got the expertise or the information to make judgments. If, if we could, and I'm not sure whether the state government would even tell us, if the council passed a motion to say, oh, people that have been deemed eligible by the state government, that we would then take that on board as well, and we could, we might have some type of a deferral or, waiving the interest for a certain period of time in the first instance. I'm not sure whether they would be obliged to give us. They might say, well, that's privacy and we can't give you that. You might have to get permission from the prime producer that, yes, they're okay, the state government to say, yes, I was eligible.
So would that be the first question then, before we decide?
Yeah.
How open are the state government to actually working with us on this?
Because other than that, we'll have to go into some type of, if we're proposing something, what is the eligibility steps to give someone some relief for a period of time?
And just when saying about that period of time, I'm not sure Ross can just with more detail on this, but with what is happening this year, it's been likely there's going to be at least 12 months before those farms are going to be.
More than that.
But yeah, so how long are we looking at deferring for? Because deferring their payments for 6 months is not going to achieve anything. So that's something else that needs to come into it as well.
And look, you could have said same with the flood, but we gave it for a period of time up to 7 months, and I'm not sure how much that got appreciated, or it was probably not as used as much as I thought it was. But I suppose in my letter back, I said, rural people are very proud people, and I said probably farmers are another level above that. They're very, very proud. Yeah. So
my question is, when we did it for the floods, like we had, maybe say not as many as you thought enter into the agreement, but did they all acquitted at the end? Like, did they get themselves back on track within the time? Allowed them all to.
Overall, I don't think we had very many issues at all.
So people did utilise it and were fair with it.
And look, there would have been, a number of people saying, "Oh, we missed that rate payment," and they didn't get a fine.
Yeah. Okay.
And interest. So it might have been retrospectively that they might have known, but it gave them a bit of time. Yeah.
I think one difference there is through the flood, there would have only been a limited number of people where it actually affected their livelihood, whereas the drought is affecting the whole region.
And a whole supply network.
Hey, Clive, can I ask a question? When we did COVID and the flood, there was no criteria, was there?
No, basically. Only in the second part of the flood where people wanted an extension of beyond that 1 quarter. So instead of 3 months, it was 7 months that they actually applied. But they basically had to tick one of 3 or 4 boxes that we had of how they were actually affected. So we took their word on that. And look, I by no means I'm not saying I don't think it was abused at all. I think it was very well handled, and it was good exercise with the council. Yeah.
So one of the things I put to the elected members is I'm not sure we're going to be able to assess criteria. If we're going to do this, we probably need to do it as simply as possible. And so, Clive come up with a tick box and say you've been impacted by the drought. That is a suggestion. Alternatively, we could say, have you been eligible for the assistance through the state or federal government? And then they tick that box, and that enables them to access whatever relief we are offering. What are people's thoughts?
Can we check what Coorong and Loxton Waikerie have done? Because both of them have both updated their policies recently.
And Goida.
Oh, have they? Goida.
No, I mean Goida, and they're probably
Can,
almost as hard hitting.
can I just ask through you, Ros, because you're living this, the criteria that the state government has laid out, how easy is that for, is it a maze for people to try and work their way through?
I've had a look at it. And you have to be pretty, well, yeah, even just farm, household allowance, I mean. Really?
The other thing you gotta think of too, say with grain farmers. In the next 12 months, if you were gonna give 1/4 of rates sort of time to pay it, which quarter as a grain farmer are you gonna do it? Because the first quarter, you're still waiting for the stuff to germinate. Then you gotta wait another 2 quarters to find out whether you got any grain to put money in the bank.
It's only to the fourth quarter when the grain's in the bin that you know you've
Yeah,
got it.
that's right.
Well, that's what I was getting at before, and saying like, realistically, for it to be a benefit to the farmers, we probably should be looking at 9 to 12 months.
Yeah,
for
that's right.
payments.
I mean, take my daughters on a farm at Spalding last year. They normally get 18 inches, they only got 5. And then the one paddock they thought was gonna be good, right at the end of September got frost.
Mhm.
Then they realised, well, we gotta rely on what the sheep are paid.
So what kind of timeframe? So Clive will get some information from the other councils and what they're doing from a criteria perspective. What kind of timeframes are you thinking? Did I hear potentially 12 months?
Well, that would be my suggestion. Because honestly, much less than that, it's not gonna be any benefit at all.
My question in regards to criteria, like from the last census information and within our rateable properties information, of which we know how many are primary production listed as whatever. But within the last census, we'd be able to, without having to necessarily go through privacy of every individual, we'd be able to get a gauge of how many registered farmer businesses there are within our region compared to the primary productive land. It then would give us a summation of maybe not exactly who's going to be accessing it or the criteria, but it will give us a bit more of an understanding of that question you made before about all land versus who's farming. Because I mean, if you're a registered primary production farm, you'd have a business name, you'd have an ABN, and that there's got to be some avenue that would be recorded somewhere.
So Councillor Hammond, you could be the pub that no one's buying meals at because the farmers are really struggling.
Sure.
For me, and what we did with
not just farmers.
that would be my suggestion, and you know we couldn't, you know, criteria. We try to be as open as possible, and if people are struggling, and you know we want to support them, then that's what we would be looking to do.
And my
point, it wasn't
Yeah,
taken advantage of previously, and I don't think it would be taken advantage of. You know, there's always going to be some people that may, but if people are struggling and they need some support, I think we you know, it's the onus is on us to try to support as many people as we can.
Yeah, the comment I had when I was at Sarah when we discussed primary production lands was, what about that farmer who lives in a house in the residential suburb? And yeah, there's their farm we're going to help them out with, but this feels, you know, like, and then there's the ones that work at the farm that don't have the working farming machinery and the IGAs and
Or
so it's a whole community.
a businessman that's got a mansion downtown and just has the farmers as a tax dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gina Reinhardt's probably,
Yep.
you know, she'd get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The question I have is it just deferral or is it interest and interest as well? Because as Simone's comment was, deferrals doesn't actually cost us anything in the long run, where interest will actually have a cost to it. Like we'll put this in a report, but just looking for what people's thoughts are on that space.
Honestly, I prefer deferral personally.
And I worry if we not get interest when the government, I'm certain they will have to come and help support.
Yes.
But if we've already got a policy in place, they're like, you've already taken care of it, you don't need it.
That's right. So really to sort of at no cost to us.
Yeah,
but-
deferral and then advocacy for the government
Yes.
to cover the interest. They got better borrowing capacity than us.
So it still hasn't officially been declared at this point in time.
Yeah, there's no mechanism for the government at the moment to declare a drought, so that's where this bill has come in. She's saying, go back to the old days where you can declare a drought.
Yeah,
The drought is not a natural disaster.
that's right, because it happens too often.
To the government.
Regular. Yeah, and I did make the point last time I saw Minister Scriven was that we got way more support during the flood then we have this drought, and I feel like this drought has been more devastating than the flood.
It is because it's an unknown time frame. A drought, a flood, you knew it's gonna peak here and then it should
Yeah.
subside, but you just, this is open ended.
Yeah.
But COVID, we didn't know COVID, did we? Because COVID's more like a drought, really.
Yeah, but that's not a natural.
But COVID, once we had the herd immunisation, there were relaxing.
Vaccines.
Yeah.
It's
Whereas you can't really
difficult.
have a herd immunisation for a drought,
No.
unless we go along and give everybody lots of water.
I don't think, yeah. So I don't think any of us think this would be taken advantage of. It's just what's going to work for them and us.
So Clive, do you know, we're not here to make decisions, we're just looking for some feedback and some guidance, so Clive could come back with a report. As I said, I think we've got 2 or 3, Clive, at the moment, but that may well increase over the time. Clive, do you need anything else? Got any other questions?
No, I don't think it, yeah, I'll go and do some research, see what other councils are doing. Come back, maybe I might be able to approach the people that the LGA and say, yeah, would we be able to get some of the information such as who's been eligible and see what comes back, and pitch it as that, you know, council wants to contribute and unsure of, you know, to what manner or how, but you know, once again, the eligibility is like an issue to us, not having that information, and would they, you know, possibly provide that information to us.
Just one other little thing, well, not really a little thing, one other thing, with Ross saying that the application for the criteria for the state government being such a base to try and work through, is there any possibility of council being able to try to support people when they're trying to go through that process? Is that a possibility at all?
Yeah, that is through rural business solutions that.
So the government will put money into a group that does that.
That's the scheme.
Business support.
So there'd be like support where you say, well, I want to apply, but I don't know how to apply, and they'll say, we'll make an appointment for you.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday, go to wherever it is in Murray Bridge or something, and we've made an appointment for you between 9 and 10, and they would actually fill it out.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's why I
When
like
they
the
say
idea
you've
of
got too many
including that
assets.
policy.
That's
They
right.
don't get that.
That's right.
And they've got that support forever after, rather than just helping their council rates.
Yeah.
That's that when I had my stroke. Young fancy stuff.
So is that it on that topic?
Yep.
So the only other item on the agenda was Andy and I were going to present on the sustainability presentation for the heritage and maritime assets, and because of my accident this morning and my inability to be there, we've had to postpone that to the next council meeting, which is not the next council meeting, the next briefing, which is on July what, Carol?
1st of July.
Yeah, 1st of July. So apologies for that, that we're unable to present on that today.
So that's it.
Take care.
Well done.
So that is the end of the agenda. Apologise, it's been a long day. Is there any other comments or questions before we wrap up?
Oh, it's been a long day, but we've had some very important issues that we had to discuss today, so the time frame doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said.
Okay.
That's it?